Hi, I'm Richard Sharp, and today we're going to be going over an upper body push exercise, the standing shoulder press. Now, this exercise is often done sitting, and I'll go over reasons why that is in a second, but right now I don't actually have a bench, so we're going to be going over standing, which you can do as long as you're very strict on form and make sure that you don't, make common errors that are going to cause your form to decrease and increase, therefore increase your risk of injury. So your standing shoulder press, as far as your grip goes on the bar, you're going to have a pronated common grip. A lot of people often want to go wide grip for anything that goes over their head, but that's actually not best for this exercise, and I'll tell you why later, because that actually puts you in a position that you don't want to be. And so for a standing shoulder press, you're usually going to grab the bar off of a rack. You're not going to have to grab it off the ground, and so you're going to come up to the bar. You're going to get this pronated, closed, common grip width right about here. You're going to have your feet shoulder width apart. And so when you grab the bar off of the rack, you want to grab it kind of in a overhand position, and you want to get it as close to touching your chest as you can. So you're going to have your feet shoulder width apart, you're going to have your back straight, and then you're going to have the bar touching your chest. So this is going to be your starting position. The things you want to make sure of is keeping your wrists straight. You don't want your wrist to dip at all. You don't want your wrist to dip back either. And you want to try at all times to make sure your forearms are parallel. That's the reason you don't want a wide grip in this exercise, is because you can see here my forearms aren't parallel at all, and that will cause you to not get the best workout out of this exercise. You're not going to have the angle that you want on your elbows, and it's going to cause a higher risk for injury. And so what this exercise does is great really for any sport that involves any kind of upper body, because it's going to work your shoulders great, and that's going to be your medial and your anterior deltoids, and that can be used for any kind of push, a lot of throws. These muscles are going to be involved. It's also towards the top of the lift going to include your triceps brachii, and so that's going to be kind of from here when you're locking out. It's going to be all your triceps. A huge, probably 2/3 of your upper arm is composed of that tricep, and so it's a huge upper body exercise that you want to incorporate into your workout plan. And so from that starting position, as I said, feet shoulder width, back straight, you're going to have the bar lightly touching, not really resting on your chest. And then to actually perform the exercise, you're just going to push straight up, making sure you don't hit your face above your head. And so things you want to look out for is being very careful. You don't want to push your shoulders back at all. You want the bar to be sitting pretty much in that same path that you started from, and so you don't want it directly over your head, because that increases, if anything were to fail, the bar would fall on your head, and that's a huge risk for injury, but also it increases the chance of the bar falling backwards and causing a shoulder injury. You don't want the bar too far forward, because it's going to be way more difficult and increase your risk for injury. So trying to keep that path that goes right in front of your face without hitting your face is the ideal bar path that you want to try to go to. Throughout the entire lift, you want to make sure that your forearms are staying parallel to each other and your wrists are staying stiff, so you don't want any kind of wrist movement. That's going to increase falling, that's going to increase dropping, and increase your risk of injury. So just a simple press from your chest up, locking out your elbows here, not too far back, not too far forward, is what you want for your shoulder press. So this exercise is very useful. It works a huge muscle group, though they're not many muscles. They're very large muscle groups, and they're groups that are used for many different movements in many different sports. And so once again, some common errors: making sure you don't want the back to arch at all in this. So if at any point from the side you'll see, like if an athlete begins to arch their back when they're struggling, that's a huge risk for injury, and you don't want that to happen. And that is why this exercise is commonly done seated as well. And so if you were going to do the seated variation, although I don't have a bench, you would do the same exact movement, only you would be sitting down with a vertical bench. And so that way your back would be pressed against the bench, preventing that arch, and you would want to keep 5 points of contact with the bench at all times, or with some type of solid surface at all times. And that would be your feet on the ground, your butt on the bench, your hip on the bench, your shoulders, and your head. You want all of that touching at all times to prevent an arch that's going to bring your hips off or your butt off, to prevent your feet moving. Having it seated just creates a very much more stable exercise, but it also makes you require a bench. It also makes you require, or at least really should have, a spotter with a press standing, there's not as much of a need for a spotter because it becomes more like a power exercise where if you were to fail, you can get out the way better. So there's a little less risk of injury there, whereas with a seated one, you would need a spotter or else you would have no way to get out the way if you were to drop the weight on yourself. And so there are advantages and disadvantages to both. For standing, it's more practical because there's less equipment needed, there's not a spotter needed, but there are some increased risks. So making sure you don't have a back arch, making sure the bar doesn't go back behind your head or over your head or forward are really the most common mistakes you're going to see. You don't want to move your head back to avoid the bar, but you just want to have a very good solid position to where the bar can go straight up without hitting your face. And so making sure the neck doesn't go back, keeping your neck straight, your back straight, your knees straight, all those things are going to recruit those shoulder and tricep muscles the most and prevent your risk of injury. Thank you for watching.